Alright, let's talk about these macro mechanics once and for all. Kinda feels like I'm beating a dead horse by now because I've been talking about it so much in the past, so I think this may very well be the last time that I'm gonna be talking about it. But hey, they did some massive patching, so let's talk about it. Hello everyone, my name is Loko and welcome to another video. Now I'm in a bit of a different room right now. I don't know if it's actually too echoey. Now I listen to myself for a second right here. But anyways, in this video I want to be discussing the changed macro mechanics once again. So a couple weeks ago I did make a video explaining the changes that they've made to Legacy of the Void, where basically right now queens do automatic injects, mules would automatically land, and you know, Chrono Boost also changed up quite significantly. Now yesterday, in the last patch that they introduced for Legacy of the Void, they've basically reverted all of those changes, and right now it's sort of like playing Heart of the Swarm. Queens can now actually queue up injects, but the mule is back just like it used to be, and Chrono Boost actually got changed more of like a Legacy of the Void version, but Chrono Boost, honestly, out of these three macro mechanics, feels very insignificant. So in this video, I want to be making a case for the removal of macro mechanics, or at the very least to go back to a place where you don't have to manually go back to your base every 2 seconds. And I know this is a little bit in contrast of what I uploaded in the past, because I actually really did not like the idea of the removal of macro mechanics at all. However, ever since the patch went live, even though I was negative at first, I've been playing about 20 games a day every single day since then, and it's been going actually very well. The more I played of Legacy of the Void with the removal or the automatic queen inject, so to say, the more I played with it, the more I enjoyed it. You know, when they first announced the changes, I was like, okay, so that means my APM is gonna drop down to like 100, there's nothing else to do, what am I gonna do if I'm not gonna do queen injects? It's a direct nerf to my skill because I've been practicing this mechanics for years. But in reality, what happened is that I started spending my APM in different places. My creep spread became significantly better. I started expanding a lot more. My overlord scouting got a lot better. I started, you know, running zerglings across the map. I started moving out with small armies, started experimenting with overlord harass and all kinds of significant things that I didn't even consider. Now obviously, now that they've brought back the macro mechanics to, you know, basically their original state, that doesn't mean that those skills can't carry over anymore. But it does feel like it's taking away a big chunk of what the goal of Legacy of the Void was. To me, at the very least, it felt like the introduction of Archon modes and allied commanders was meant to, you know, have new players join the game, to allow new StarCraft 2 players to actually buy the game and be reasonable when they first start playing it. But because let's face it, if you pick up Heart of the Swarm right now, you're gonna be pretty terrible for the first half year or so. And it really felt to me like they were trying to make the game a little bit more approachable for new players. First off, obviously, they basically decided that Archon mode was gonna be a thing, allied commanders was gonna be a thing, and I felt like the macro mechanic removal would really allow new players to access the game a whole bunch easier. And it feels like with that last patch that went live yesterday, we basically get the opposite of that, because it's basically like the Heart of the Swarm macro mechanics, except that the game is significantly harder because everything is overpowered, which is a good thing, by the way, don't get me wrong. Everything is overpowered. There's new units, different counters, different harass methods, and it feels like it's actually a lot less noob friendly. Now, one main argument that I've been seeing a lot over the last couple of weeks, which is actually a very fair one, is that Zerg has a much easier time in Legacy of the Void right now, for the very reason that, hey, you don't actually have to look at your bases anymore when you are later on into the game. And I'll be honest, I've been guilty of this myself as well. Sometimes I'm at like 150 supply, I have 3,000 minerals, 2,000 gas, and I don't spend them on anything, because I know in a little bit I will be able to anyway. It doesn't really matter if I spend them right now or if I spend them in 10 seconds, because, you know, I'm just gonna have those minerals anyway, and the queen injects are automatic. Obviously, in contrast to Terran and Protoss, that is not fair, because Protosses have constantly, you know, to warp in units, Terrans constantly have to queue up units as well, and Zerg just sort of sat back for a very long time and be like, okay, I'll just see when I want to spend these resources, and obviously that wasn't very fair. And on top of that, the automated queen injects and the automated mules and whatnot just felt very clunky. I mean, sometimes I don't want to inject a hatchery, but the queen is gonna spawn anyway and it's gonna immediately inject a hatchery, and then it's gonna die to a bunch of cannons. That has happened multiple times before, and it just felt like it wasn't really part of StarCraft. So I've been thinking about it for a little bit, and actually I've seen a couple of pro players comment about this as well. What I would really like to see is just a straight up removal of the macro mechanics, and with that I mean removal of mules, removal of queen injects, and removal maybe of Chrono Boosts as well. Now I know what you're thinking, and this is the argument that most of the other pro gamers make. How is that gonna separate casual players from pro players? Doesn't that make everyone pretty much equal? And honestly, in my experience so far, the answer is no. It basically shifts the focus from macro a lot more to micro. And obviously that does take a little bit away of the essence of what is StarCraft, but honestly I've had some of the most epic games in Legacy of the Void where engagements are literally going on for like 5+ plus minutes. Constant aggression, constant engagements, different kinds of army compositions, much more room for multiple spellcasters because you don't have to worry about your macro as much. And all in all, it just seems like it would be a much better idea to have those macro mechanics changed up and maybe even removed. Now obviously removing the macro mechanics as it is right now would kind of be silly because balance would be all over the place. Terran would not be able to play Bio, Zerg would not be able to play Zerglings, and Protoss would probably have a field day. But obviously those kind of things can easily get fixed. For example, let SCVs mine a little bit more or produce them a little bit faster. I mean, Protoss is already doing that, and it would sort of make up for the fact that the Mule is missing and Terran would actually be able to play Bio. And to counteract that Zerg problem that I just talked about, maybe make it so that hatcheries are a little more expensive, so they're 400 minerals, just like a Nexus and a command center. Make it automatically generate larvae, but have no more than like 3 or 4 larvae active on a single hatchery at a single given time. Which means that Zerg would constantly have to keep, tapping the buttons in order to produce at maximum potential. If you would make the maximum idle larva to maybe 3, that would obviously mean that the hatchery would constantly be trying to produce more, but it can't because there's already 3 larvae available. And it would mess up tech switches quite a little bit, but I think it would be better for the game overall. Honestly, I'm personally a little bit disappointed that we're once again back to the heart of the Swarm-esque macro mechanics, and it feels like it really is going against the idea of what Legacy of the Void was meant to be. Now, I'm not saying that these manual queen injects and those manual mule landings and whatnot are bad for the game whatsoever. It just feels to me like it would make the game less approachable by new players because it's just gonna be so difficult to pick up everything. And at the highest level of play, honestly, would it really make a difference anyway? Those players are hitting all of their queen injects and mules beautifully anyway. These are my thoughts on the macro mechanics. If you have your own suggestions as well, definitely let me know right below the like button in the comment section of the video. I will keep an eye out on it, and I'm sure someone from Blizzard will be watching this video as well, so if you have some great suggestions, they may actually pick up something over there. Other than that, I want to thank you guys all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I will see you in the next one.